This presentation is talking about a smart building microgrid project at Innovacorp incubator. Innovacorp is an early stage venture capital here. There are a lot of tech startups here, including Tesla Canada, who do research on battery cell chemistry. This presentation will be separated into two parts. The first part will be an introduction of Innovacorp. The second part will be talking about Green Power Labs along with Solar Global Solution to discuss in detail about that project.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for this workshop sponsored by Innovacorp. My name is Michael Dennis. I'm an investment manager at Innovacorp. We've been involved in smart energy for quite a while, supporting this event, investing in smart energy companies, supporting them through programs and in our incubators. Today there's really two pieces. We've organized the workshop to allow companies that we funded with Department of Energy and Nova Scotia Carbon Capture Storage to establish a microgrid test bed at our incubator in Woodside and to demonstrate a technology software to be able to control the operations of that in a predictive manner. So Chad Mahoney and Sean Fleming, Chad Mahoney of Green Power Labs, Sean Fleming of Solar Global Solutions will tell us about the microgrid. Before that, I'd like to introduce the investment Vice President of Innovacorp, Andrew Ray, my boss. Andrew's here to give you a brief overview of a vision of how we'd like to inspire startup companies to think big, to think about the billion-dollar opportunities, and to really put this in their mind before they set out to seek venture capital investment. So with that, if you could keep all your questions to the end, that would be great, and I'll pass it over to Andrew.
Thanks, Michael. There we go. So I'm the yes, and it worked. I'm the Vice President of Investment at Innovacorp. Historically, well, we're a Crown corporation. The province has given us about $100 million to find, fund, and foster innovative Nova Scotia startups that strive to change the world. So what we're really looking for are things that are globally interesting, things that can actually change the world, things that aren't just going to be relevant here in Nova Scotia, but relevant for everybody in the world. Two reasons we're doing that. Number one is for the province to put money in here, we want to have this be impactful to the province. So when we're looking for big ideas, we want things that are meaningful. If we have a company that is a great company and maybe turns into a $20 million company, that would be great for probably everybody involved. But for the province of Nova Scotia, probably a minimal impact. If we can have some really big opportunities come out of Nova Scotia, like these billion-dollar companies, then things start to get really interesting for the province, and then that's also indicative of having sort of an impact at scale. So what our vision as an organization is to actually to have Halifax or to have Atlantic Canada become one of the 10 best places to start a startup in the world. There are some great things that are already here, especially in the areas of what we like to call sort of deep tech, of which clean tech fits into that bill. Number one is across Canada, startups in Nova Scotia or in Halifax raise more money than anywhere else in the country on an average basis. Now, average kind of blurs some of the detail there. And that's not even including non-dilutive. When you get to things like IRAP and ACOA, the numbers get significantly better, where we're actually very competitive with like Silicon Valley, New York City, Boston for the amounts of money that startups can actually raise to execute on their vision. So already we actually are one of the best places in the world to start your startup. And that's not even talking about the idea that it's cheaper to do things in Halifax than other places in Canada or in the US. So just on a per cost basis, Halifax is a great place to be as a startup. In terms of how are we going to help startups and how do we fit in with the province's vision, we do investment. So I am responsible for leading our investment team where we invest in companies for equity. Along with that, we do incubation, and so we have a facility over in Woodside called our Technology Innovation Center, which is largely focused on clean tech companies, giving them sort of bays so that they can actually make physical things, giving them sort of office space so that they can get their products off the ground. We feel without that there, a lot of these companies would struggle to find similar sorts of spaces in the private sector. We also offer a lot of programs and resources to the companies that we work with. We connect them with experts. We often pay for those experts. We also have several other programs that we run on behalf of the government to help startups. And so we funnel that sort of help into our clean tech startups, amongst others. And overall, outside of clean technology, we also do information technology, life sciences, and ocean technology. You could also say ag technology as well. So, and then the IT side of things, we're definitely pushing more into the deeper tech space of things, where what we're looking for are these sort of big opportunities with unique intellectual property that have some great barriers to entry or competitive advantages. So where do we sort of fit? What do we really look at? We're looking at early stage Nova Scotia based companies. And so for us, early stage means we usually write checks of 250,000 up to $1 million, maybe 2-ish million in any one company. And so this is right at the early stage when companies are just have maybe some, on the clean tech side, maybe they've got some initial vision of here's what the product does, some initial prototype, here's what it kind of looks like, and then trying to get some of those initial pilots, get out there and prove that it actually works. That's kind of the stage where we're playing. What we're also looking for really is ones that I mentioned that solve very big problems, which is great for clean tech because there are a lot of very big problems in this space. As you look at the energy companies in the world, and like by our definition, they're huge. By anybody's definition, they're huge. And there's huge problems in this space, which is also what the sort of things that we're looking for. And a lot of IP-heavy, patented sort of technology that gives companies the edge. But before we get all the way to that, the very first thing that we need the startups that we work with to understand is who actually is their customer. And this is a harder problem to address than you might expect, because you say, we're going to, as a former engineer, it was always, let's build something cool and then go find who we can sell it to. The challenge with doing it that way is you could build something that nobody actually wants. So the better way to go about doing this is to find what we like to term as a $10 billion problem, and then go find a solution for that problem. And so the real question is, who has that problem? So you want to know who exactly is going to pay for your product or who is going to use your product. So for an example, one of our companies that we've been working with, it's in the TIC, Green Power Labs. It's about making buildings more efficient. So buildings will save money by sort of automating their heating and cooling with a smart system, and you can save, let's say, 20% off of your heating costs. And so how much will a building save if they save 20%? Think of all the buildings in the world, and that number easily gets into the tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions. And so by solving that problem, you're going to create a huge amount of value for the world, because this is actually just saving energy. So instead of having to go out and dig up new energy or create new energy, you actually save energy. And if you save somebody $10 billion, they'll pay you $1 billion to do that every day of the week, and you'll grow very quickly. So this sort of addresses the why will these people use it, and largely the answer is because it will save them time or money. So if you want to, why will a building use sort of a smart energy system? Because it will save them money. Like if it doesn't save them money, maybe you can make a play that it will save the world, but save them money, oh, and save the world as well. Like those are the plays that get a lot of traction. And those are the ones that we're interested in, because if you can save somebody money, we've got a good bet that they'll actually pay you to use it. The other piece that we look for is how big of an issue is it? So let's say it's a building and you save them, or a bunch of buildings and you save them $1 million. That sounds great, but what if they're spending $1 billion a year on energy? It has to be sort of relevant to their bottom line or their top line. And so like a 20% savings is going to be relevant. If you have a 2% savings, it's not going to be high on their priority list. So you want things that are probably a top 3 priority for your customers. So it all comes back to who are your customers, why are they going to use it, is this a big problem for them? And if they don't know it's a problem, think of what impact does it have on their bottom line? If you can make a 20% impact on somebody's bottom line or top line, every one of those people will sort of adopt that problem or adopt that solution to the problem. So that's talking a bit about the problem in terms of why your company over every other company in the world. What is the one thing that your solution as an entrepreneur does that nobody else's solution does? And here, what we really want is things that are like 10 times better. Now, 10 times better in some specific area. And so 10 times feels like a lot, but 10 times better could be on the bottom line. If you can do a 10x improve or 10 times better improvement in terms of margins, if you can go from like 5 or 6% margins, and then what is actually going to come down to the bottom line is 1 or 2%. If you can add just even a few percent of margins, thinking of some of our companies here, if you can grow those margins significantly by even a few percent, it can have a huge impact on people's bottom line. And so this is the sort of thing that could be, that sort of is a much bigger opportunity than, you don't just want to just marginally improve something, you want something that is disruptive, that is way better than the alternative. What's great about the sort of clean tech space and why we really like it is almost all of these ideas come out of some very deep research, usually from universities or PhDs who are world-class in what they do, and they've developed unique intellectual property. There's usually some strong patents around this technology. What we're really looking for is, we would like things that everybody's going to have to use this because it's so much better than everything else, and the company who built it has IP around it that they will have to use your solution for that. And so having these strong patentable technologies leads to those sorts of solutions where you create a battery that's 10 times better than the current batteries, and literally everybody in the world will use it because it's 10 times better, and you'll have those patents that they'll want to use, they have to use yours because you're the only ones that do 10 times better. Those are the really, really interesting ones that turn into like monopoly plays in the global market. And the sort of the really disruptive ones. And those are also the plays that have a meaningful impact on the world. Like, you want to be thinking big, not just nibbling at the edges. You want to go for the whole pie. And then what also comes along with that really heavy IP is usually people who are developing that IP are the best in the world at what they're doing. Like, if you're coming out of a university, you're usually doing unique research, and why this team over everybody else in the world? When we're having an impact on the world, it's the people who are like the best people in the world who are going to do that. And we've sort of been just sort of involved in the local ecosystem here. We have world-class experts in a lot of the fields where we can have a material impact on the world. And those things are great not just for giving us a return on our investment, but for actually doing something important for the world, not something that nobody else in the world notices. So that's largely what we've done, what we do as an organization. We do invest in clean tech startups. We want to invest in the companies that are going to bring these new disruptive technologies to market and basically take over the world and make it a better place. And now I'll pass it back to Michael for the people who are going to talk to us.